Chapter 295 Ranked Carving Knife. The two Soul Engineers who were walking in front seemed cold and tough as they entered the guest lounge. There was a tinge of arrogance in their eyes, and they threw a glance at Huo Yuao and his companions before they walked over to one side and sat down. I haven't seen these two before in the tournament. Could they have skipped over the previous 2 rounds? Huo Yuao glanced subconsciously at the name list in his hands. Neither of them were wearing numbered tags, so he couldn't confirm their identities. The guest room was quite large. The two Soul Engineers didn't bother with Huo Yuao and his companions as they found a spot to sit down, and their 4 bodyguards positioned themselves behind them. These two Soul Engineers immediately attracted Huo Yuao's attention. He could tell through spiritual detection that the bodyguards standing behind them were Soul Masters, and they didn't seem weak at all. It seems like these two Soul Engineers are quite important people. They look like they're around 27 or 28 years old. Could they be from the illustrious Virtue Hall? Huo Yuao tried his best to search his memory. He and Hikato had spent quite some time inside the illustrious Virtue Hall, and he had seen most of their members. Naturally, he had seen quite a few high-level Soul Engineers. However, these two Soul Engineers were definitely below 30 years old since they were participating in this tournament, and it wasn't likely that they were high-level Soul Engineers. The guest lounge's door opened once more as he was calculating and analyzing things. Chen walked in briskly and gave Huo Yuao a glance before he stepped over to the two Soul Engineers who had just sat down. Chen said respectfully, "Greetings, my friends. Many thanks to you for coming forward to participate in the competition. These are your number tags." He handed 2 number tags to the two Soul Engineers as he spoke. Huo Yuao's eyes were extraordinary, and he could faintly tell that the 2 number tags read 96 and 98 respectively. These 2 numbers didn't appear in the data that was given to him, and that meant that these two Soul Engineers hadn't participated in the previous 2 rounds. Are they people that the Duskwater Alliance has specifically invited to participate? All right. Let us know when it's time. The Soul Engineer with the 96 number tag answered plainly before closing his eyes to rest and mentally prepare himself. The Soul Engineer with the 98 number tag didn't say anything at all. Chen greeted them once more before he turned around and walked briskly over to Huo Yuao's group. He came beside Huo Yuao and asked respectfully, "Do you have any instructions for me?" Huo Yuao replied, "Arrange seats for these two inside the Golden Hall after this. It's alright if they're a little further away, as long as they can see me." Chen was momentarily stunned. He glanced between the handsome-looking Wang Dong and then at the cute-looking Nana. He thought to himself, he really lives up to his identity as someone from the Holy Ghost Church. This arrangement was strange, and Yuao actually had 1 male and 1 female servant with him. However, he had been utterly convinced after Huo Yuao revealed the sealed milk bottle to him, as the sealed milk bottle was the illustrious Virtue Hall's newest technological breakthrough, and it was also a top-secret affair. The fact that Huo Yuao could show it meant he was evidently one of the illustrious Virtue Hall's core members, and Chen figured that Huo Yuao was probably someone that the Holy Ghost Church had sent to the illustrious Virtue Hall for special nurturing. Alright, I'll arrange for it at once. Huo Yuao's eyes shifted to one side, and he made an inquiring expression. Chen didn't make a sound, and he mouthed a soundless response. The Duskwater Alliance has specially invited these two to participate in the competition. I'm not sure where they're from, but my superiors tell me that they're formidable Soul Engineers. Huo Yuao had a look of revelation on his face. It was clear that the Duskwater Alliance had invited these two to deal with the other contestants from the other 2 underground organizations. If that was the case, they couldn't be that weak. Chen didn't dally around. He turned around and left, and it didn't take long before some officials came forward to announce that the competition was about to begin, and that the contestants could enter the arena. Wang Dong began to push Huo Yuao outside. However, 2 bodyguards who were guarding the 2 Soul Engineers opened their arms and blocked Huo Yuao's path right at this moment. "Please wait. Let our masters go first," they muttered coldly at the same time. Wang Dong's eyes widened, and she was about to erupt, but Huo Yuao smiled and raised his hand as he said, "Alright, let them go first." One of the 2 bodyguards grinned mockingly and said, "Good for you, cripple, that you know what's up." He hadn't even finished his sentence when a golden beam of light sparkled behind Huo Yuao like a waterfall. The bodyguard hurriedly channeled his soul power and released his martial soul as he raised his hand to block the golden beam. Boom. The bodyguard's body was thrown backwards, and his entire body began to burn up in golden flames. Wang Dong was naturally the one who had lashed out. The fire of light from her golden light left arm bone immediately covered her opponent's entire body. The party with the soul bone, when both parties had yet to release their martial souls, had an absolute advantage over the other side. But her attack seemed to have disturbed the hornet's nest, and the 2 other bodyguards raced forward and gathered with the remaining bodyguard as they all released their martial souls at the same time. All 3 bodyguards had the same combination of soul rings, 2 yellow and 3 purple ones. They were all Soul Kings, and it was clear that they had gone through proper training. They protected the bodyguard who was burning up in flames as they combined their auras together and started toward Huo Yuao and his companions. "Stop." The Soul Engineer with the 96 number tag shouted. He wasn't tall or short, and his appearance seemed as typical as could be. However, his eyes were conspicuously cold and gloomy. He walked over with the other Soul Engineer, and Huo Yuao watched them in amusement as he sat there in his golden tree wheelchair. "My subordinates are immature and unruly, and I'm deeply sorry that they have offended you. After you." The Soul Engineer with the 96 tag squeezed out a smile, and he spoke and gestured at Huo Yuao courteously. Huo Yuao wore a faint smile on his face as well. "That's all right. I'm quite sorry about all this. Let's go." Wang Dong surveyed the other 3 bodyguards coldly, her eyes filled with indifference and contempt. These 3 were Soul Kings, but there was still nothing much in her eyes. Wang Dong was from Shrek Academy, so how could other normal Soul Masters compare to her? Wang Dong's current cultivation rank was no weaker than Ma Xiaodao's when Huo Yuao and Wang Dong first met her after they entered the academy. The Soul Engineer with 98 came up beside the other Soul Engineer, and they watched Huo Yuao and his companions leave the guest lounge. He asked softly, "Big brother, the fellow on the wheelchair seems a little strange." 96 nodded and said, "His servant seems so gentle and tender, but she possesses such formidable strength. I believe she has 6 soul rings, at least. Otherwise, she couldn't have forced him back with a single palm. Her element is light. Are they members of one of the Sun Moon Empire's large families?" The golden flames that were still burning on that bodyguard had been extinguished by now. However, his face was extremely pale, and soul power seemed to leak from his body, as if he were fighting against something. 96 walked over to his side and placed 1 hand on his shoulder. A greyish-white light lit up and swiftly flowed into the bodyguard, and only then did he gradually stop trembling. "Nobody is to cause any more trouble after this. Don't forget our task. Let's go." The Soul Engineers departed the guest lounge after that. Hikato pushed Huo Yuao's wheelchair after they entered the Golden Hall. Wang Dong and Nana, under Chenon's special arrangements, were led by some officials along the arena's edge and into a dark corner. There were no seats there, but they were in a better position to watch everything that was happening on stage. It was apparent that Chenon's arrangements were quite thoughtful. Huo Yuao and Hikato were given places in a corner once they stepped on stage. Chenon didn't dare to let Huo Yuao and Hikato attract too much attention after what Huo Yuao said to him the last time. Between 1 to 2 hours, we've placed 300,000 golden soul coins. 1 to 3 odds. Here. Huo Yuao whispered to Hikato. Hikato was wearing a metal mask on his face, and Huo Yuao couldn't see his expression. But Hikato nodded in Huo Yuao's direction, and the 2 of them interacted with their eyes for a moment before they transferred their attention to the crafting desk in front of them. 96 and 98 were arranged in the seats that Huo Yuao and Hikato were last at. They were wearing long soul engineer robes, but their physical appearances were quite typical, so they wouldn't draw too much attention to themselves. Chenon's voice quickly rang out across the arena. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that the second round of the competition's main phase is about to begin. Please remain silent so that our mighty soul engineers will have a quiet environment to craft their soul tools. There are still too many people in this round, so some soul engineers have to complete their tasks beneath the competition stage. Therefore, silence is to be maintained throughout the entire process, and anybody who makes a sound will be expelled from the arena. Alright, let me announce this round's rules." Huo Yuao perused the information that the Duskwater Alliance had prepared on stage as he listened to Chenon's announcement. There were a lot more materials compared to the previous round. There were 10 kinds of rare metals, and more than 20 kinds of normal metals. The only problem was that there were no more than 2 kilograms of each kind, which meant that the soul engineers couldn't craft any large class 4 soul tools unless they brought their own materials, no matter what they chose to create. Chenon added one more line after he finished his announcement. In the interest of fairness, every soul engineer can only use the metals provided by the organizing committee for crafting. The finished soul tools will be weighed immediately after completion so that they can ensure that the contestants didn't cheat. Huo Yuao was quite pleased with how the Duskwater Alliance did things. They were an underground organization, but they were still able to maintain fairness in their tournament and their rules. Alright. Get ready, all Soul Engineers. This round begins now, and the countdown has begun. Get into position, referees. The timing was closely related to the bets placed, hence it was extremely important. There were more than 10 people responsible for the timing, and there were normal citizens, aristocratic members, Soul Masters, and Soul Engineers among them, along with people from other professions who were more or less representative. The Duskwater Alliance was doing their best to make sure that nobody could cheat. Huro Yuao wasn't in a hurry as he picked up a silver white piece of metal and placed it in his soul tool model. He had already activated his spiritual detection, and the two Soul Engineers with the 96 and 98 number tags were his targets. Huro Yuao didn't need his eyes to see, and he could still monitor every single movement that they were making. Huro Yuao was already astonished even though he had just started observing them. The two Soul Engineers were moving very quickly, taking one metal block apiece and getting to work right away. Experts could always tell with one look. These two Soul Engineers were familiar, well-trained, and they moved with rhythm and unnatural calm. They seemed extremely composed, and their hands were so stable that it was almost frightening. Every movement was exceedingly accurate and precise, and they did things just like Huro Yuao had in the first round that he participated in. They didn't use the tools provided on the crafting desk, each instead retrieving a carving knife each as they began to do their own carving and engraving. Truly formidable Soul Engineers didn't really believe in needing tools to help them. They would rather complete everything on their own. What caught Huro Yuao's attention were the two carving knives in their hands. Number 96 was holding a dark red carving knife. The knife didn't seem like it was made from metal because it became thinner closer to the blade's edge. Therefore, this carving knife had a gradient that slowly changed from dark red to fiery red, to light red, and then down to transparency. The blade was extremely peculiar, and its entire body seemed to be crafted from some kind of jade. There were patches of cloud patterns on one side of the carving knife, and these cloud patterns seemed to come alive when soul power was injected during the carving and engraving process. This made the carving knife's sharp edges shine faintly with layers of blade light. The glow wasn't intense, and one could only see it upon closer inspection. However, it was because of these lights that the carving knife was especially sharp. The carving knife easily sliced and cut through the tough metal as if it were dicing tofu. The carving knife that number 98 drew out wasn't ordinary, either. His knife was dark green in color, and a little bigger than his companions. There appeared to be rusty marks on its surface, but it didn't look to be made of iron. It seemed very old, even ancient, with dragon-shaped engravings on both sides. One could almost hear a dragon's calls as the carving blade was being used, and every cut and move added a green layer to the metal block's surface before the green hues rapidly disappeared. There seemed to be wind-type undulations contained within. Ranked carving knives? Huro Yuao was astonished. The carving knife leaderboard was the list that Soul Engineers paid the most attention to, and the list gradually took shape over the years. There were 100 ranked carving knives, and the list consisted of the most outstanding carving knives on the continent. The list also had an order, but most carving knives were similar in capability and had their own unique characteristics. Huro Yuao's soul-devouring carving knife was ranked on that list, though it was ranked towards the bottom because it had a unique trait of flashing back at its owner. Ever since the knife became Huro Yuao's life guardian blade, he had not brought it out to compete for a spot among the other ranked carving knives. The ranked carving knives were assessed every 10 years, and they would be compared with the previous 100 carving knives on the continent that were ranked 10 years ago. The winners would be added to the list. The carving knife leaderboard was extremely authoritative, determined and judged by 9 of the most influential and formidable Soul Engineers. One Class 8 Soul Engineer from each of the continent's 3 native countries were on this committee, while the 6 others were Class 9 Soul Engineers from the Sun Moon Empire. It wasn't hard to see how dominant the Sun Moon Empire was in the world of Soul Engineers, and more than 70 of the current ranked carving knives were located inside the Sun Moon Empire. It would be foolish to think that 100 ranked carving knives was already one too many. How many Soul Engineers were there? Ranked carving knives were priceless treasures to any Soul Engineer, and it was glorious for any Soul Engineer to possess one such blade. The most powerful thing about ranked carving knives was the fact that they had their own unique characteristics, and perhaps even their own sentience, so to speak. This was especially pronounced when creating formation arrays. Ranked carving knives would infuse their own unique attributes into the soul tools that they were used to craft, and these soul tools would possess special capabilities that made them superior to other soul tools of the same class. Certain ranked carving knives made the crafting process a lot easier because they possessed an extraordinary ability to slice through metal. Some ranked carving knives could add elements to soul tools, and the advantage of using such a carving knife was extremely conspicuous in the circumstance that Huro Yuao and the others were in now. Of course, the more powerful the ranked carving knife, the more complicated the weaponship required to create it, and the rarer the materials required to craft it. More than 30% of the current ranked carving knives were unable to be replicated, while another 30% were replicable in theory, but almost impossible to replicate in reality. The formula to craft the remaining 40% had been lost throughout the generations, and one could tell from all this that a ranked carving knife was extremely valuable. It was hard to find a ranked carving knife in an auction, even in any of the top-tier auctions on the continent. Everybody would be fighting for the ranked carving knife if it did appear. At this moment, Huro Yuao could already see 2 ranked carving knives with one glance. He felt a little strange, but he was more annoyed than he was surprised. He really wanted to slap himself across the face, as he only remembered when he saw their ranked carving knives that he had one of his own. Huro Yuao had kept his blade concealed even when he was on exchange in the illustrious Virtue Hall all those years ago. He didn't want people to know he had it, and he wanted to prevent it from being stolen, so he had never used it before. His life guardian blade had been nourished within his eye of destiny this entire time, to the point where he had forgotten that it was even there. Yes, he had forgotten entirely that he possessed a blade as powerful as the life guardian blade. He only remembered that he had it when he saw the 2 Soul Engineers' ranked carving knives. What a tragedy. Huro Yuao exclaimed grievingly and indignantly inside. However, he didn't retrieve his life guardian blade right away. The blade had been nourished within his eye of destiny this entire time, and he wasn't sure what it had become. Taking it out now would only attract unwanted attention. I guess I'll have to wait until I get back. I'm sorry, my precious darling carving knife. Huro Yuao's exasperation and helplessness didn't affect his movements. He began to use the most orderly and traditional methods to craft his Class 4 Soul tool, as he didn't want to stand out too much. According to his original plan, Hikaru was the one who had to finish his Class 4 Soul tool within 1 to 2 hours so that they could win their bet. However, he was immediately rendered speechless as he watched the 2 men in black who were using ranked carving knives, because he was about to lose his wager. With their speed, they wouldn't even need an hour to complete a Class 4 Soul tool. The truth proved that Huro Yuao's judgment was accurate. Half an hour passed, and the 2 Soul Engineers withdrew their ranked carving knives and submitted their respective Soul tools. The countdown was momentarily stopped, and their submission times would be officially counted as long as they passed the test for their Soul tools force afterwards. Hikaru called out softly. Huro Yuao forced a laugh and said, 300,000 golden soul coins. Looks like I was careless. That's all right. We'll see about that in the next round. Hikaru smiled straightforwardly as he continued crafting the soul tool in his hands. However, his speed was conspicuously slower than before. In the end, Huro Yuao and Hikaru submitted their productions along with most of the other Soul Engineers after about 3 hours. The 2 Soul Engineers who were the first to submit their soul tools were already long gone. Their soul tools passed the test with flying colors, and were far stronger than the other typical Class 4 soul tools. There was no doubt that they would progress into the next round. Both Huro Yuao and Hikaru's Class 4 soul tools were small soul cannons. The force of their soul cannons was just like the time that they took to craft them. Average. They qualified, but they weren't outstanding at all. There were only 48 people who remained after this round to participate in the subsequent rounds, and this group included Huro Yuao and Hikaru, along with numbers 96 and 98. Shannon met up with Huro Yuao one more time before they departed the Green Hotel. Shannon told him that the tournament would become a lot more competitive in the next round, and Soul Engineers would have to face off against each other 1 versus 1. It would be a little antagonistic, but Shannon wasn't exactly sure what it would be like. Furthermore, he would no longer be the chief judge in the next round, as his superiors would send higher-level Soul Engineers to anchor things down. Having an inside man like Shannon was extremely beneficial for Huro Yuao and Hikaru's participation in the competition, and this slightly alleviated the pain of losing 300,000 soul coins. Thankfully, he hadn't thrown everything into that bet. He hadn't wanted to attract unwanted attention, but it did seem like a highly rational choice in hindsight. Yuao, are you hiding your abilities again? Wang Dong asked Huro Yuao as she pushed him in the wheelchair and they departed the Green Hotel. Huro Yuao laughed bitterly and said, I don't think so. I feel like a fool now. 300,000 soul coins. That's just painful. I will have to go back and apologize to everyone. Hikaiju chuckled and said, that's all right. Just earn back what we've lost. If we don't hide our abilities, we can finish our soul tools within an hour or two. We would have gotten our money if we placed our bet directly in that bracket, but we just didn't dare to do so. The next round is competitive. Right? We'll see about earning back what we've lost during the next round. Wang Donga giggled and said, looks like you've gambled before. Second senior brother. You seem quite professional with your words. Hikaiju smiled and glanced at Wang Donga. Why do I feel like you're especially lively and happy today? Did something good happen? Wang Donga was a little taken aback. She smiled sweetly and said, of course something good happened, but I'm not going to tell you. Hikaiju looked at her, and then at Hua Yuao. He smiled mysteriously and said, I know what happened. Wang Donga stared at him in confusion and asked, what do you know? That's not possible. You will never guess it. Hikaiju said, how is that impossible? The good thing that you're talking about, isn't that the good thing that's happened between you and Hua Yuao? Are you expecting? We should help you to arrange your marriage as soon as possible when we return from the competition before your tummy gets big. Don't worry, Yuao. We'll call eldest senior brother when the time comes, and we'll all join you in your proposal. Wang Donga was still a little lost when Hikaiju asked if she was expecting. Towards the end, however, she could tell that something was wrong, and when Hikaiju finished the rest of his sentence, her face was flushing red. What? Don't talk nonsense. Who are Yuao and I didn't do that. She stomped her foot as she spoke, and she gave the wheelchair over to Nana beside her before she took a few quick steps forward and walked out in front of everyone else. Hua Yuao was just laughing throughout the entire conversation, and said nothing at all. Yes. He did feel like Wang Donga's liveliness had returned to her, even though that meant she was no longer gentle and soft. It also meant that she was probably a little more quirky and erratic, so it would be a little more difficult to flirt with her. However, Hua Yuao was especially delighted to see her so happy. Hua Yuao used imitation to bring everyone back into the hotel and closed the door to his room. He asked Wang Donga to push him over in front of his desk and draw the curtains. It's getting late. Let's get some rest. The tournament had taken them almost 4 hours, and it was already very late. The next match of the round robin was tomorrow, and they didn't have much time to rest. Hua Yuao said, go and rest, Donga. There are some things that I need to handle. He was a little too eager at this point. What do you want to do? Let me accompany you. Wang Donga pulled a chair over, sat down beside him, and stared at him with a curious look. She had been together with Hua Yuao for far too long, and she could tell from Hua Yuao's expression that he was extremely excited. He had just lost 300,000 golden soul coins, so it must be something big. Hua Yuao didn't keep urging her to rest. He gradually closed his eyes, and a pale golden layer shone from his skin. Gentle spiritual undulations permeated the room with a strained aura. Wang Donga smiled faintly as she watched Hua Yuao with his eyes closed. Hua Yuao was still a soul king, but no matter how much Wang Donga understood about him, she didn't know how powerful he was now. He'd probably become a true high-level soul master once his body recovered and he was able to move. His spiritual power was just too strong. The full moon piercing autumn dew greatly boosted Hua Yuao's spiritual power, and had allowed him to ascend into the concrete immaterial realm. This was also his true hidden weapon in the big tournament. The soft spiritual undulations continued to ripple as a faint golden crack slowly appeared on Hua Yuao's forehead. The crack slowly opened up, and a strange vertical eye gradually appeared. Wang Donga was a 6-ring soul emperor, but she still felt her entire body quiver and a dizziness surface in her mind when the eye of destiny opened up. She didn't feel balanced on her chair anymore, and had to hurriedly support herself by gripping the table. She focused her attention, calmed herself down, and withdrew her spiritual power so that she wouldn't be affected. What kind of eye is that? The brilliant golden eye was transparent like a golden crystal, but its pupil was a deep and elegant purple color. Strange but intense spiritual undulations flowed out, and the entire room was quickly filled with an aura of formidable spiritual power. A bluish-green light suddenly erupted from the golden eye. The light rays in front of the golden eye became a little twisted when this bluish-green light appeared, as if it were opening a door into another world. Bluish-green light flickered, and a carving knife was hovering in front of Hua Yuao. It's beautiful. Wang Donga couldn't help but whisper. Hua Yuao's eyes opened. The eye of destiny on his forehead shone with faint golden light, and his eyes were fixed upon his life guardian blade. Yes. It really was. It really was quite beautiful. The Life Guardian blade had undergone drastic changes over the many years that it had been nourished, and it now looked like a translucent emerald. It wasn't just transparent, like a crystal. Its colors were dense, positive, and even. The green hues were full of life energy, and the entire blade was just riveting. There were no patterns of any sort on the Life Guardian blade. It was so pure that it seemed like it had been naturally formed, and not man-made. The fearsome and ferocious aura that had once belonged to his soul-devouring carving knife was entirely gone. While rippling with flourishing life energy, the blade also possessed peculiar spiritual undulations. Hua Yuao raised his hand and carefully pinched the Life Guardian blade with his thumb and his index finger. A layer of green light immediately shone from within it and stained the entire room a jade green color. Dense life energy flowed backwards and followed Hua Yuao's right arm into his body. It was just a small carving knife, but the life energy that it fed back to Hua Yuao was continuous and flowed endlessly like a river. He felt as if his life energy was expanding with breakneck speed. Furthermore, this powerful life energy was automatically fighting against the ice type origin energy in his left arm and his lower limbs, as if it were melting ice into water. Hua Yuao's entire body was filled with energy and vitality, to the point where he almost moaned out loud. He subconsciously infused his soul power into the carving knife, and a strange sensation surfaced. A blurry green light lit up at the carving knife's tip, and a foot-long blade light protruded from it. This blade light was slender and shaped like a trapezoid, wide at the start and narrow at the back. Simply put, the carving knife seemed to have expanded. Hua Yuao was holding the carving knife diagonally. The blade light appeared and naturally stabbed into the desk before him. A strange scene appeared. The table's entire structure was immediately imprinted in Hua Yuao's mind. Afterwards, Hua Yuao could feel that the table had been annihilated. Yes, annihilated. Wang Donga and Hua Yuao looked on in shock as the wooden table was soundlessly converted into ash and dust. The table slowly crumbled in front of their eyes into dust that drifted down to the floor. The Life Guardian blade only flickered once with green light. Wang Donga raised her hand, and dense light-type soul power swept out. Her soul power swept up the ash and dust, and she opened the window so that she could throw it outside. Hua Yuao controlled his Life Guardian blade and withdrew the blade light, which also put a stop to the enchanting bluish green light. Wang Donga cleaned up the mess, and turned around and gazed into Hua Yuao's eyes. What just happened? Hua Yuao mumbled. This is called the Life Guardian blade. Have you heard about ranked carving knives? He immediately briefed Wang Donga about the Life Guardian blade's identity. Of course, he skipped some things that were related to Electrolux. It's been nourished inside my Eye of Destiny for such a long time that I'd forgotten all about it. I really deserve a beating for that. I never expected that it would come to possess so much life energy over the years. With this blade around, I can feel that my life energy can be permanently maintained at a flourishing level, and even the speed at which my body can absorb the ice type origin energy has become a lot faster. Wang Donga's eyes sparkled. That's a good thing even if it could only help you recover more quickly. But what's the deal with the table? Hua Yuao thought back to something Electrolux once said. The Life Guardian blade was forged from life gold. If the blade has an element, then its element is life. It can manipulate life energy, and this ability is known as adjudication. It can adjudicate the life energy in all matter. This doesn't include living matter, and can only take effect against metal and all other sorts of non-living matter. This blade can absorb life energy from these non-living things to boost itself, and it can also cause those things to crumble just from absorbing its life energy. Of course, that also means it can give other metals its own life energy. I believe that if the committee redid the carving knife leaderboard, the Life Guardian blade would rank among the top 10. Wang Donga asked, what do you intend to use it for? For that competition, you'll pay a price for possessing something like this. Won't you attract a lot of unwanted attention if you have a precious carving knife as glaring and riveting as this? Hua Yuao smiled, and he proved to Wang Donga how powerful he was with his abilities. The Eye of Destiny's light contorted a little, and the bluish green and transparent carving knife in Hua Yuao's hands transformed once more, becoming a black carving knife that looked as normal could be. Imitation. Can you change everything with imitation? Wang Donga stared at him with wide eyes and a slack jaw. Hua Yuao nodded gently and said, what you see now is just the tip of the iceberg. Do you remember? I said I have a hidden weapon, and it's not this carving knife. It's a soul skill combination that I've invented all by myself. You will see it when we meet an opponent that's powerful enough. All right. Help me onto the bed. I want to try using the Life Guardian blade to support my cultivation and see if it can help me accelerate the absorption of the ultimate ice origin energy of heaven and earth inside me. I have a feeling that full recovery is waving to me now. Who are you? Owl's eyes flowed with self-confidence. He had this powerful life energy to protect him now, and this allowed him to do what he wanted as he absorbed the ice type origin energy. That's great. Wang Donga said delightedly. The next morning, the sky around Radiant City was a little dark, and the clouds were hanging low. There seemed to be a heavy and gloomy atmosphere in the air as light drizzles billowed in the sky. The rain carried waves of a crisp chill. Wang Donga pushed Hua Yuao's wheelchair as they exited the Brilliant Delight Hotel. Nana held up a large umbrella for her and Hua Yuao, and everyone proceeded towards the competition grounds. The second match of the round robin was about to begin. The Tang Sect was facing off against a sect called the Jade Sect. According to the information that they had, this sect was very special, and they were quite powerful as well. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.